Hey football fans, on episode 1 of Tailgate Talk, we will be talking Super Bowl picks through Week 12, giving you in-depth analysis on who we feel the best of the bunch are in the NFL right now, an unsung hero of the MVP race who has been making noise since his arrival in Philadelphia, and an in-depth discussion about the state of the New Orleans Saints and their future going forward. Let's talk about it all on Tailgate Talk. Hey everyone, this is Tailgate Talk, episode 1. I'm your host, Zach Seymour, and I am here with my brother, our first guest of the season, Evan Seymour. How are we feeling today?
Pretty good. I just got off work, and I'm looking forward to talking some football with you.
Awesome. Let's get into it then, shall we? So our first question here is Super Bowl picks. At this point of the season, who do you have and why?
Well, I mean, if you watch football, you got to say the Chiefs just because, they're going to wriggle their way in there some way, somehow. And there's real, they've pretty much beaten everybody in the AFC in terms of like who their top contenders are, the Bills, the Ravens. The Steelers are the one team that I feel might pose an interesting matchup with them. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, that game's coming up, though.
Yeah, I think that's
the
Christmas
Christmas game. So
Yep.
that'll tell us a lot. But
I love
Chiefs,
that matchup.
Lions is another team I'm looking at, even though it's tough to say, hey, the Lions are going to be in the Super Bowl and win. It's wishful thinking, but at the same time, they're probably one of the most complete teams in football. So, it's hard to count them out. But I'd probably say those are my two front runners. Beyond that, I got a couple other teams here and there. I like the Ravens. I like the Eagles as much as I, don't necessarily like them personally. I know they're a good football team. They can definitely contend. I think they'll be in the NFC Championship game. But beyond that, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs are probably going to find their way back there again just because that's the way things go, obviously, with them. Every time you count them out, they seem to find their way back into play. But I think, and a lot of people have been telling me no, but I really do like the Steelers this year for some reason. I just think their defense poses a different challenge for the Chiefs that they've really never faced before. When you can hold a team to almost 2 scores every game, which is what their defense has been doing, it makes it a lot easier for your offense to go out there, and they don't really have to, put up a crazy light show of touchdowns. So it's a lot easier when your defense is that great. So I like them coming out of the AFC, but it will probably be the Chiefs. I just think the best matchup for the Chiefs is probably the Steelers defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do. I think that the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. I think it's just been crazy between Gibbs and Montgomery. I think they both have had a touchdown almost every game this season,
Which is absurd.
Yeah, so it's like you can't really count out that level of a rushing offense. And then on top of it, I just feel like they obviously pass the ball great. I mean, St. Brown has been great. But, at the same time, him and Laporta haven't had to have, this amazing season.
No,
because
not at all.
They have so many weapons on offense, and their defense is so good that it's kind of the same thing with the Steelers, where it's since you have such a great defense, your offense can stall a little bit, which they haven't. So, I mean, that makes it even better. But I'm just saying they have so much depth, and I think they have more depth than the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think they are the more complete team right now. But it's still hard to believe at the same time because you're just so used to the Chiefs pulling it out and winning anyways. But I do like the Lions, and I do really like the Eagles right now as well, out of the NFC. Just based on the way that they've been playing as well. They have a lot of depth, and Saquon is just having a monster season. So I like them as well, and they also have a great defense. So I think that that's definitely going to be an interesting race down the stretch. So those are our picks for that. Do you have anything else on that, or?
No, not particularly. I mean, if I really had to say I feel strongly about a team, I guess the Lions, but then again, it's hard to feel strongly about them just with, their historical record. But
yeah,
I really think this is the year for them. I really thought last year was the year for them, but they did what they did, and it's unfortunate. But The way that they're playing this season, the way that things are clicking, it's hard to not picture them at least making the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and
You
then
know,
you can
Super
kinda go.
Bowl, that's tough to call, but they're going to be in that championship game if I had to
Yeah, they
make a
gotta be.
prediction. So
Yeah, they're gonna get that bye, and then the road to the NFC is gonna go through Detroit, and they have a great fan base, great stadium for
yeah, you don't
playoff
want to play them
football.
at home after
Yeah, I
last
mean
year,
it gets
bro.
loud in there,
Oof.
man. So I think it's gonna be very tough for anybody in the NFC, but I think the Eagles definitely pose the best challenge there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move forward here. We're gonna talk about the MVP race. The pundits, the media are kind of saying that it's between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson at this point. Is there anybody else that's sticking out to you right now, besides the two of them, that could win the MVP?
You know, the old head in me, the OG, says Saquon, just with the numbers that he's putting up this year. I mean, but you're never going to see a running back win that award unless it's something where it is so astounding that, you know, without a shadow of a doubt that they got to give him the award. And I just don't feel that way this year with the way that, you know, Josh Allen and Lamar are playing. Personally, I lean towards Lamar just with the sheer amount of, you know, stats that he's putting up. But I could see it going to Josh Allen as well. I just think that's a race where it's like it's totally going to be up to the people in the NFL and who they fancy, and you know, like it's just close this year. It's hard to really say like, oh, there's a definitive pick for an MVP. It's like there's so many good players like, you know, playing at a high level this year, and especially those three that that we've mentioned, Josh Allen, Lamar, and Saquon. It's like it's hard to be like, oh, well, I think, you know, one is really sticking out right now. I think in the next few weeks we'll figure it out just based on stats and just the way that people are playing, who wins, who doesn't, you know, obviously. But at the same time, I just feel like right now it's too hard to call.
Yeah, I think, and I was kind of going to go along the same lines. It's they're never going to give it to a running back, which is a shame because Saquon, in my opinion, deserves it. I mean, he's having an unbelievable season. I don't think he's really had a bad game, and if you look at his stats, and larger than that, just the impact that he's had on the Eagles, that they can lean on him when they're, you know, not playing so well. I mean, he's the rock of the offense and the team, and I just think also like all their struggles in the beginning of the year, a lot of Eagles fans were complaining like, Sirianni, you're not running the ball, and they were right because they really weren't using Saquon like they should have. I mean, he's just an unbelievable player when he can stay healthy. So, I mean, you've seen that change when he's in there and he's healthy. It's, you know, they can really you know, let it fly with their offense. But I think, you know, like we said, I think it's going to go to a quarterback, and I think, you know, it's tough because, you know, Lamar and Josh Allen are both putting up great stats. I just think I have to lean towards Josh Allen just because, for the sake of variety, he's never won before. So I think that's kind of the way they're going to go with it. And I just think Josh Allen has won more meaningful games so far.
That's very true.
And because when it comes down to it, it's like they definitely have similar stats because of how great they both are. But it's just, you know, Josh Allen has those more meaningful wins, especially against Kansas City. Like, that's the one that sticks out to me. Like, you beat the Chiefs. I mean, that's the team to beat, regardless of what anybody wants to think about the Chiefs. You know, maybe they're not the same team that they were in past years, but they still are the defending champs, and they beat them. So I think that, you know, and he played a huge role in that win too. It wasn't, you know, like he was just, you know, had an off day and the defense pulled it out. It was not. He played really great. So, yeah, I think they're going to lean towards Josh Allen at the end of the day. So that's who we're rolling with. Do you have anything else to add on that topic besides the fact that, you know, Saquon has been great? I wish that, you know, they would add some variety and throw a running back something, but they won't. So
no, never in a million years.
Yeah.
Never going to throw a running back anything. Just letting you know that now.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point with Josh Allen, is that, you know, in the beginning of the season, I looked at the amount of defense that was shed from that roster, the amount of wide receiver talent that was shed from that roster, and I went, how is he supposed to have the same years he did last year, or anything comparable to anything that he's done? And once again, what are they, 9-1, I believe?
Yes. No, they're 9-2.
9-2.
Yes.
It's still
Yeah.
very solid for what I thought they would be coming into this year, and I think it's more of a testament to his ability to really gather guys together and be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Lamar doesn't do that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
Lamar has he's got everything that he needs right now. He's got
Yeah.
two running backs who are amazing, and Justice Hill and obviously Derrick Henry. He's got wideout talent galore. He's got Zay Flowers. He's got Deontay Johnson. It's just he's got
Yeah.
what he needs right now. Josh
Bateman
Allen
is good too. Bateman's
Yeah,
been
Bateman's
really
really good too. I forgot about him, but
Yeah, I think with Lamar definitely has a little bit of a more complete roster in terms of weapons. Josh Allen, they did, and the Bills did lose a lot of receiving talent. James Cook has been great, so I don't think that's a problem. I think they've been doing quite well rushing, and he's a star running back in my opinion. He's been great almost every game, but like you said, that leadership quality with, and we saw it kind of in the past. I think of guys like Aaron Rodgers. I think of guys like Drew Brees, even Eli Manning. You want to throw him in there. They never had a crazy wide receiver room, but just because they could do what they could do, offensively, it just made it so much easier for them to take guys who were, not stars and kind of make them stars.
Yeah, they create stars.
They created stars. So I think that's a quality that, if you have that as a quarterback, it takes you miles ahead of other quarterbacks in the league. So yeah, I totally agree with you there on that. And so I think, that's all I really have to say about it. I don't know if you really had anything else about it, but I think bringing that up was definitely a great point about that leadership quality.
I mean, if I had to make a personal pick for MVP, George Pickens. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, George Pickens is my MVP.
Captain Crash Out.
Yes, Captain Crash Out.
So we're gonna move on here to our last question, a more personal note. Me and Evan are both Saints fans, suffering Saints fans. It has been an up and down season to say the least, but the Saints are 2-0 under interim head coach Darren Rizzi after the firing of Dennis Allen. Is there any way that you could see the team parlaying their success over the last 2 weeks into a wild card appearance? They would have to win out, and a lot of things would have to fall our way. And also, beyond that, whatever your answer may be, are you impressed with the newfound energy from Darren Rizzi and what he's kind of, he's injected some life into the team from what I've seen over the past 2 weeks. So how do you feel about this topic as a whole?
As we both know as Saints fans, and maybe it's hard without context to understand this, but there are 3 things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and the Saints finding a way to go 500 after a miserable start. And, they didn't start awful. They were 2-0. They had 91 points for, and it's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
But we know this team like the back of our hands. What they do is they come out and they either are extremely lackluster and then they pull it back together, or it's the other way around. And right now it's the other way around. We're finally pulling it back together after losing 7 straight, and now we have, we're 2-0. To talk about Rizzi, though, I like him. I do. Like, I liked Rizzi when he was just a special teams coach and was kind of just doing his thing there. Like, I liked him. He brought energy to the team. I always thought that Dennis Allen was he has the personality of a wet mop, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what technical prowess you have as a defensive coordinator or as a head coach. It's just like, if you're not breathing life into a team, you're not breathing life into a team, and talent can only take you so far. But I don't know. If the question is, do I think the Saints break 500? Flip a coin. It's totally dependent on, if they show up and if they want to play and they have the same energy that they've had. They're a streaky team, so it's totally dependent on if they take this energy and they keep building on it every week. If they don't, it's going to crash and burn the way that I would, prefer, honestly, because, I'd like to get some draft picks. I'd like to get things going and start this rebuild. But once again, if you know the Saints, you know that we don't want to rebuild, and Mickey Loomis will do everything in his power to keep things the way they are, to keep the Saints, and he's very afraid of change. And, it's a difficult thing, but I guess if I had to make an answer, I really don't know if we do break 500.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting. I think for me, I would say No, we're not gonna make the wild card.
No.
Obviously not. But I will say I have loved what Darren Rizzi has done in his short time with us. I think uh, if you know these players like we know them and have watched them over the years, you could see, and I've said it a million times when we've watched the games together. If you don't play with pride, if you don't play with, at least if you don't even come into a game with the attitude of, we can attack this and we can beat this team, or just on a larger note, I even want to be here right now? I think because you could see it on their faces, dude. Those last waning weeks of Dennis Allen as our head coach, it was a mess, and you could see it on their faces. Nobody was playing with any pride. So I think that has been huge in, kind of just revitalizing the team and bringing them to a point where at least they're playing for each other, and they're playing for Rizzi to, get him some wins and bolster his resume as a head coach. So I think that's been pretty important. And just in terms of the team as a whole, I think that will be important to remember moving on, playing with a sense of pride. Do I think Darren Rizzi is going to be our head coach next year?
No.
I don't think that's the case. I think we need to go out and get somebody which plays into your what you said about rebuilding. I think we need to go out and get somebody who is an offensive guy. We need a guy. If you want to promote Clint Kubiak and then throw someone else at DC. You can keep Rizzi as a special teams guy, whatever you want to do. But I think there has to be someone, if you look at the way the NFL works these days, you have to have someone at the forefront who is willing to take risks and who is willing to, cultivate a group of offensive talent that fits within his scheme. And so I think, and Kubiak did a great job of that when everyone was healthy, but,
Yeah, that's very true.
it went off the rails really fast. So regardless of who the next head coach is, I think it's someone who has to be defensively or offensively minded, and then you can, have your defensive guys, and you can have Rizzi for the energy, because like I said, I've loved the energy that he's brought to the team, and I think that when you have players, which kind of ties into how I feel about playing with, a sense of pride. When you have a group of guys that want to play for a coach who, gel well with a coach, and they have a good communication system, it makes everything easier, and it makes it easier to win games. So, regardless of if Darren Rizzi is our coach or not, they should, the front office should take this as an example of what type of coach they should be looking for in the future. So, no, we're not going to make the wild card. There's no chance in hell we're making the wild card. There's way too many good teams in the NFC right now that will probably, that deserve it more than we do, to be quite honest with you. But, yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about the whole thing. So, yeah. Did you have anything else to add about that? Any optimism for the Saints?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. There's not much optimism to go around in my camp, at least for the Saints. I've watched this team for a long time, and, I do feel that this team will get wins and will get close to 500. I think I'll be 3 games under, 4 games under 500, which is fine. But then I think about where it puts us for a draft pick next year, and that's,
Yep.
that's an O lineman. That's a D lineman.
Yeah.
That ain't it's no wide receiver, no QB. Not that we would draft there anyway. I mean, us taking Olave a couple years back, we were jumping for joy, because before that, I think Brandon Cooks was our last, breakout wide receiver draft pick. But,
Yeah.
we just don't draft high-end talent. That's the Saints' calling card. We draft a lineman, offensive or defensive, and that's it. That's what we do with our first-round picks.
Yeah.
And sometimes they work out, like with guys like Tylee Fuaga and Cesar Ruiz, and sometimes they don't work out with guys like Peyton Turner, who can't stay healthy and, remain on the field. So it's just... But we don't draft high-end talent. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, and especially now that we're going to be sitting at, I don't know where we are, but I know we're not, we might be in the top 10, right on the cusp, maybe 10
Probably.
or 11.
Yeah.
Which is good enough. It's going to get you a great draft pick, but it's just our mentality towards it is always, let's be safe. Let's get a guy who we can invest in. And instead of just saying, let's just draft a high-end guy, because why not? Because if he's a star, then that takes our team to another level. But It's just not the mindset. It's not how Loomis does business. It's not how Dennis Allen did business. Even, Sean Payton is the same way. He was the same type of, oh, well, I've got my guys on my martini napkin here that,
Yeah.
we know they're going to be stars. Like, no, we don't know that we're going
Yeah.
to, that they're going to be stars.
Yeah,
But
I totally agree with that.
it's just this kind of prescribed way of doing things that has not changed since I started watching this team. So it's hard for me to be optimistic or say, oh, well, I think something different will happen next year, because that's the mentality I take in every season, and we're left with the same questions and the same, like, oh, well, what are we going to do? So.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point, is that, the Sean Payton mindset, the Mickey Loomis mindset is, oh, well, we don't need to draft high-end talent because we've got our guys in-house. And yeah, that worked when you had Drew Brees, when you had one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, because he can elevate talent, which is what we talked about before with a guy like Josh Allen. He can take a guy who's, maybe not, jumping off the paper on your draft sheet as the greatest wide receiver, but he's a great route runner. He has good hands, and Josh Allen can make it work because he's just a great quarterback. And McDermott's a great play caller. So it's like, those things are, those things are, you have to take those things into account. And also, I just think, like, going back to the whole idea of a rebuild, selfishly, it would be great to make the wild card, whatever, and lose to whoever we have to play who didn't get the bye. It's just stupid. I think where we are, I don't want to say tank,
No.
I say play the best you can, but if we don't make the wild card, I'm not really going to be mad, because that means that we're going to be higher up on that draft order, and it's going to put us in a better position to finally start this rebuild that needs to happen, because that's the problem. Is we go 500 every year. Since Drew Brees has left, we've pretty much gone 500 every year, and that provides the front office and the coaching staff a level of optimism that, well, we went 500, so if we run it back next year, we can keep the same team. Maybe we'll draft, some offensive lineman from the middle of nowhere, and we'll figure it out. And that's not the mentality we need. This Saints unit has shown that they are not good enough to compete with the best teams in the NFL. They're just not. And you can say, well, we still have, Kamara, and we still have Taysom Hill, and we still have Olave, and they're all great players. But the truth is, and I don't want to see any of them go. That's not what I'm saying. I think they're great, but building around them is what's important from an offensive perspective. And I just think in the NFL, you've gotta get weapons, and you need to find, even Carr. That's a whole other conversation. But I think it's just time to if you're a Saints fan, you know who we're talking about, the players we're talking about, and the staff that we're talking about. They all gotta go, and if they don't go, this will continue to happen, because it's a cycle. It's a cycle of flipping the coin, as you said. So I just think that's the current state of the team. And you see teams like the Texans, and you see teams like the Lions, who finally just looked in the mirror and just admitted, we suck. We're not a good football team, and we need to drain the swamp, and we need to restart. And they had a couple years there where they sucked, and they didn't amount to anything. They were not good. But that's what you have to do to rebuild. And the more time that you wait, the more you're just going to be in this limbo where, you're going to go 500 every year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought on it. And, I want nothing but the best for the Saints. And that's the only reason that I'm so harsh on them, because I see the potential that we have to be better, and we're not tapping into it because of laziness. And so I think that's just kind of how I feel about it. So yeah. Do you have anything else to add about that?
Yeah, I guess I would say, and I don't mean to disagree with you, but I guess I'd just say it's not really laziness so much as it is complacency, and they just love to be the same Saints team every year.
That's what I mean.
They all it's just the way that we do things. Like, we're all happy to come back to the same roster and the same coaches and the same everything, and then we wonder why, like, across the league, like, nobody wants to play for us. The NFLPA graded us an F in terms of like amenities and like, being a part of the team, like being an actual member of the team, not in the sense that it's like, oh,
we renovated the Superdome,
yeah,
pal.
like, oh,
It's for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we put a cafe next to the practice field. Like, ooh,
yeah,
like it's just not enough. It's not enough. There's a serious culture problem with this team.
That's what I'm talking
about. Not in the
about.
way where it's like, we stink, but it's just. We're just okay with being average, and there's something about that.
That's what I mean.
Once you have that stink on you, when you're okay with like, oh yeah, we can go 500 and we'll chalk it up to well, we fought hard. If you have that mentality, you're just burying yourself. Not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
you know who else fought hard this year? The Giants and the Jets.
Oh well, we don't want to talk about that.
They fought hard this year, and look what happened to them. They got nowhere. So that's I hate to be harsh, but That's just how it is when you have that mentality, and that's what we're kind of both saying here is, you're just not gonna get anywhere with that mentality, and it starts from, it goes from the very top. It goes from ownership to management to coaching to the players. It is a full group effort, and it takes a lot of luck, and it takes a lot of everyone being on the same page to get to, the level of a Chiefs or a Lions or these teams that we mentioned earlier who are, just churning out great football right now. So that's my opinion on it. I don't know. I feel like you've given an adequate take as well on how bad things have gotten over there. So it feels good to come on here and vent a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I mean we're venting in the sense that it's we're getting things off our chest.
Yeah,
coherent thoughts, because typically on Sunday it's a lot of yelling, screaming, and leaving the room and shutting the TV off because it's just unwatchable.
Yeah.
But at least these past few weeks it's been a lot better. The team seems energized.
Yeah.
And you got to just take it one game at a time.
Exactly.
There's really nothing else that we can do right now beyond that, and everything else is kind of just wishful thinking at this point in terms of what will we do next season or how do we strategize. Like, we need to focus on what we have now.
Yep.
And try to win with, this current roster, because it's not going to, we can't go anywhere until, this season ends and we figure out where we stand.
Yep.
It's an interesting dynamic with this team. You really have to, if you have time on Sunday and your team is not that great, or you just feel like watching something else, tune into a Saints game. I implore you, because you will understand what we're talking about in terms of, just a fan experience and, being a part of, this team.
The car wreck you can't look away from.
Yes.
Yeah. No, this season won't end without my NFC South Champions t-shirt. No. Well, I think that we've said enough about that. And it seems that that's all the time we have for today, folks. Stay tuned for episode 2 of Tailgate Talk, where we'll go into more depth about the MVP race, because it will be nearing playoff time, which will be our other topic. It will be a very interesting pod the next time we are here, because everything will be coming to a head, and all the things that we are talking about will probably be coming true. So I thank you for listening, tuning in, and we will see you next time on Tailgate Talk.